When I showed up at my girlfriend's company event, I never expected what I was about to see. Sitting beside her was another guy, and under the table, he was holding her hand while she sat there smiling like she loved every second of it. I turned around and left without saying a word. For the next 2 days, I ignored her completely. Then, instead of reaching out herself, she sent some of her friends to talk to me. I'm 28 years old and work as a software developer. Until then, I believed my relationship with my girlfriend, Vanessa, was strong. We'd been together for 2 years. We had our own apartments, but almost every weekend was spent together. She worked in marketing for a medium-sized tech startup downtown, and I'd always backed her ambitions, even when they kept her busy with late nights and weekend projects. Looking back, the warning signs had started appearing around 3 months earlier. Vanessa gradually became more distant. She was constantly glued to her phone, laughing at messages she'd never let me see. Whenever I'd ask how her day went, she'd give me these vague, almost rehearsed responses about meetings, clients, and team collaboration. I convinced myself it was just work pressure. She had talked about a major product launch coming up, and I figured she was simply exhausted. We used to have a routine. Friday nights belonged to us. We'd go out for dinner, watch movies, or stay up until 2 in the morning talking about absolutely everything. But eventually, those nights started disappearing. She'd cancel at the last second because of urgent deadlines. And when we did spend time together, she'd seem distracted, checking her phone every few minutes with this little smile that made my stomach tighten. "Who's texting you?" I'd ask casually, trying not to sound suspicious. "Just work stuff," she'd answer while locking her screen. Nothing exciting. But her expression told a different story. Her face looked like whatever she was seeing was actually very exciting. About 6 weeks before the company event, I finally brought it up. We were at her apartment, and she was supposedly reviewing campaign materials on her laptop. But once again, I caught that same private smile while she stared at her phone. "Vanessa, are we okay?" I asked. She looked up, confused. "Of course we are. Why?" "You've been different lately. It's like your mind is somewhere else." She closed her laptop and sighed. "I'm just under pressure because of the launch. It's a huge opportunity for me. Dylan and I have been working crazy hours." That was the first time I'd ever heard the name Dylan. She said it so naturally, but something inside me immediately felt off. "Dylan, my project partner. I've mentioned him before." But she hadn't. I knew she hadn't because I would have remembered. "What's he like?" I asked carefully. "He's amazing, really creative and incredibly driven. We work really well together." The way she said that stayed with me. There was warmth in her voice, a kind of admiration that used to appear when she talked about us. Then came the office celebration. They had reached their fourth quarter targets, and the company organized a dinner at this expensive restaurant with a private room. At first, Vanessa seemed uncomfortable with the idea of me attending. "Honestly, it's just going to be boring work conversations," she said a week earlier, avoiding eye contact. "I don't care. I'd like to meet your coworkers, especially this Dylan you keep talking about." For a brief second, something close to panic crossed her face. Then she forced a smile. "Sure, that sounds nice." On the night of the event, I actually made an effort. I wore a nice shirt, used the cologne she loved, and even fixed my hair properly. I wanted her to remember what we had together. Looking back now, maybe that desperation should have told me everything. Traffic made me about 15 minutes late. The restaurant had that dim atmosphere with exposed brick walls and those trendy Edison lights. It was the type of place where every meal cost $40 and somehow arrived on a piece of stone instead of an actual plate. I texted Vanessa to let her know I was there, but she never answered. I headed toward the private room in the back while mentally preparing introductions. Through the frosted glass door, I could see around 20 people mingling with drinks in their hands. Everyone seemed relaxed and happy. I opened the door and searched the room for Vanessa. At first, I couldn't spot her. Then I noticed her sitting in a booth in the corner, partially hidden behind a decorative plant, and she wasn't alone. A guy sat right beside her, so close their shoulders were touching. He looked about my age, maybe slightly younger. His hair was perfectly styled, and he wore one of those expensive watches that practically demanded attention. But none of that mattered. What made my stomach sink was his arm positioned under the table. Even from where I stood, I could tell his hand was reaching toward her. Her hand wasn't visible either, but I didn't need to see it. Her body language said everything. She leaned toward him, tilting her head while he whispered something that made her smile. Not the polite smile she used around strangers. It was the genuine smile I used to think belonged only to me. What hurt the most was how natural they looked together. Not like coworkers, not like friends. They looked like a couple. Like two people who shared secrets and inside jokes, two people who knew each other deeply. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds, waiting for her to notice me, but she never did. She was completely focused on whatever he was saying. I imagined their fingers intertwined beneath the table. Then she laughed at something, placing her free hand on his arm in that familiar, comfortable way that only comes with closeness. A woman standing nearby, probably one of her coworkers, looked over at me and smiled politely. "Looking for someone?" she asked. "No," I replied quietly. "I was just leaving." Then I turned around and walked away. I didn't create a scene. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't even send a text. I simply left. Driving home felt unreal, almost like I was underwater. I kept replaying everything I'd seen, trying to convince myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe he was just an overly friendly coworker. Maybe I'd misunderstood the whole thing. But deep down, I already knew the truth. My instincts had been warning me for months, and now they were screaming. The way she leaned into him, the closeness between them, and the fact that their fingers were literally intertwined, that wasn't something innocent. I didn't hear a single word from Vanessa that night. Part of me expected a call or at least a message asking where I'd disappeared to, but my phone remained completely silent. I stayed awake until 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling with that scene replaying endlessly in my head. Every time I shut my eyes, I saw them together again, her smile, his hand resting over hers. That silence spoke louder than any excuse ever could. The next morning, I woke up to one message from her, sent at 1:47 a.m. "Sorry, got caught up with work people. Hope you made it home okay." There was no mention of me showing up, no concern about where I'd gone or why I'd suddenly left. Either she genuinely hadn't noticed I was there, which seemed impossible with only 20 people in the room, or she was pretending not to know. Both possibilities made me nauseous. I didn't answer. One day without speaking turned into 2. I went to work, came back home, ordered takeout, and tried to focus on literally anything except the memory of her hand hidden beneath that table. My coworkers asked if something was wrong. I brushed it off and said I was just exhausted. My phone sat on my desk, mocking me with the absence of notifications. I kept thinking about what I would say when she finally reached out. Part of me wanted to yell, to demand the truth from her. Another part wanted to act like I'd never attended that event at all, to let her lie convince me that everything was normal. But deep down, the biggest part of me already knew what was happening. I was simply waiting for her to say it herself. Then, during the evening of the second day, my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I looked through the peephole, I recognized 2 women I'd vaguely seen in Vanessa's Instagram stories. Her coworkers, most likely. Just perfect. I opened the door. "Hey," the taller woman said with a smile that looked far too rehearsed. "I'm Lauren, and this is Brielle. We work with Vanessa." "I know," I replied, staying firmly in the doorway. "Can we come in?" Brielle asked, though her tone made it sound less like a request and more like a decision. "We only want a minute." I thought about shutting the door in their faces, but curiosity got the better of me. I stepped aside and let them enter. They sat down on my couch, as though they'd done it 100 times before, which irritated me more than I cared to admit. Lauren crossed her legs and glanced around my apartment with barely hidden judgment. "So," she began, using the same diplomatic tone people adopt right before saying something awkward. "Vanessa is really upset. She says you've been ignoring her." "Is that what she told you?" "She's worried about you," Brielle added gently, clearly playing the good cop while Lauren handled the other role. "She said you left the event without saying goodbye, and now you're not answering her calls." "She called?" I grabbed my phone and checked. 2 missed calls, both from that afternoon. No voicemail. Interesting. Lauren's smile weakened slightly. "Look, we don't know what's happening between you two, but Vanessa is our friend, and she's really hurting over this. She's been crying at work." "Hurting?" I repeated without emotion. "Did she tell you why I left?" The 2 exchanged a quick glance, and that split second told me everything. They knew more than they were admitting. She said she doesn't know, Brielle answered carefully. That's why we're here. We're trying to understand what happened. I laughed, a harsh sound that made both of them tense. You want to know what happened? I showed up to your office event like I was supposed to, and I found my girlfriend sitting in a booth with some guy, holding his hand beneath the table as if I didn't even exist. Silence filled the room. Lauren's expression shifted from defensive to uncomfortable. Brielle looked down at her hands, and in that instant, I knew they'd known exactly what was going on all along. That's not, Lauren started. Not what? I cut in. Not what it looked like? That's seriously the excuse you're going with. Brielle finally spoke. You mean Dylan? I don't know his name. Tall guy, dark hair, expensive watch, sitting way too close to my girlfriend. That's Dylan, she confirmed before hesitating. He's been working very closely with Vanessa on the campaign launch. They're partners on the project. Partners? I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. Is that what we're calling it now? It's not like that, Lauren insisted, though there wasn't much conviction behind her words. She sounded like someone saying what they were expected to say, not what they actually believed. They're just close because of work. You know how things can seem when you're spending long hours together. Sometimes it can look. Don't, I interrupted. Don't sit in my apartment and try to gaslight me. I know exactly what I saw. We're not trying to, Brielle started. Oh, really? I walked into the kitchen and grabbed a beer from the fridge, making no effort to offer them anything. Because in my job, when I work closely with someone, I don't secretly hold their hand under a table during a public event. I don't lean toward them like they're the only person who matters. And I definitely don't ignore my partner when they show up. Maybe you misunderstood what you saw, Brielle suggested weakly. Maybe, I admitted, taking a long drink. Or maybe the two of you know exactly what's been happening, and you're standing here because Vanessa is too much of a coward to face me herself. So which one is it? Lauren shot to her feet, her cheeks turning red with anger. She's not a coward. She really does care about you. She's just falling apart right now. Lauren's voice grew louder, her usual calm and collected demeanor beginning to crack. She keeps asking about you. She's barely touching her food. Do you have any idea how difficult this has been for her? Difficult for her? I slammed my beer onto the table hard enough that foam spilled over the rim. And what exactly has been so difficult for her? Getting caught? Lauren started to answer, but stopped herself, realizing she'd almost said too much. Yeah, that's what I figured, I replied quietly. Tell Vanessa that if she wants to explain what I saw, she can come here and say it to my face. And tell her to stop hiding behind her friends and do her own talking. She needs to act like an adult and take responsibility for what she's done. Brielle stood up as well and gently guided Lauren toward the door. We'll tell her, she said softly, giving Lauren a warning glance. And tell her one more thing, I called out as they reached the entrance. I'm not interested in whatever excuse she's been practicing. I want the truth. All of it. Once they were gone, I sat alone on the couch, staring down at my phone. Part of me wanted to call Vanessa right then and force answers out of her, but the bigger part of me already knew what was coming. Denials, excuses, manipulation disguised as reassurance. The same tired script every cheater seems to memorize. 20 minutes later, my phone vibrated. Vanessa, Lauren told me what you said. Can we please talk? You know where I live? Vanessa, I'm coming over. I didn't answer. I simply sat there with my beer, trying to prepare myself for whatever version of the truth she planned to give me. I knew it wouldn't be the whole truth. It never is. But maybe it would be enough. 30 minutes later, she arrived. Her eyes were swollen and red, as if she'd spent the last hour crying. She stood in the doorway, and for several seconds neither of us spoke. Somehow she looked smaller than before. Weaker. Or maybe, for the first time in months, I was finally seeing her for who she really was. Can I come in? She asked softly, her voice shaky and fragile. Without saying a word, I stepped aside. She walked into the living room and stood awkwardly in the center, her hands clasped together like a nervous student preparing to give a presentation. I don't know what you think you saw, she began. Stop, I cut in immediately. Don't insult me by pretending you don't know, and don't treat me like I'm an idiot." Her expression collapsed. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is. Explain why you were holding another man's hand at your office party while your boyfriend was standing 10 feet away watching." "You saw that?" Her voice broke, and for the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. Not fear of losing me. Fear of being exposed. "Of course I saw it. I was there, Vanessa. You invited me, remember? Or was I just there to keep up appearances?" "I didn't think you'd notice," she whispered, before instantly realizing what she'd just admitted. The words lingered between us like a confession. She had known exactly what she was doing. She had simply bet that I'd be too distracted, too trusting, or too blind to see it. "You didn't think I'd notice," I repeated slowly, my voice dangerously calm. "So you knew exactly what you were doing. You just hoped I'd be too stupid to figure it out. You brought me to that event knowing you'd be with him." "That's not—" She covered her face with both hands. "Dylan and I, we got close. Working on the project together, all those late nights, it just happened. I never planned any of this." "What happened exactly? Say it. Use real words." She lowered her hands, tears pouring down her cheeks while mascara ran in dark streaks. "We've been seeing each other. Not for very long, just a few weeks. It's complicated." "No, it really isn't," I answered, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "You cheated on me. You had an affair. There's nothing complicated about that." "I never meant for this to happen," she cried desperately. "He understands my work in ways you never could. We connect on a level that's different. We spend so much time together, and he understands the pressure I deal with. You never really understood that side of my life." "So now this is somehow my fault?" I asked. "Because I didn't understand your job enough, you needed to find someone else? And that somehow made lying to me for weeks acceptable?" "No, that's not what I meant." "How long, Vanessa? And don't lie to me. I'm done with lies." Defeated, she slowly lowered herself onto the couch. 2 months. It had been going on for 2 whole months. 2 months. 8 weeks of lies right to my face. 8 weeks of her touching him, kissing him, then coming home to me and acting like nothing had changed. 8 weeks of me playing the fool, completely blind to what had been happening right in front of me. "Were you ever going to tell me?" I asked. "Or were you planning to keep both of us around until you figured out which one you actually wanted?" "I don't know," she admitted. And somehow, hearing the truth hurt even more than every lie she'd told. I didn't even know what to think anymore. "I care about you, but Dylan and I—" "Get out. Please, just let me explain." "Explain what?" I stood up, my hands trembling. "Explain how you've been lying to me for 2 months? Explain why you brought me to an event where you were planning to sit beside your affair partner while pretending I didn't exist? Explain why you sent your friends over here to pressure me into forgiving you before you even had the courage to apologize. Tell me, Vanessa, what exactly is left to explain?" "I'm sorry," she cried, reaching toward me. I took a step back. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I was confused, and Dylan was there. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, and you decided that feeling mattered more than the 2 years we spent together. That feeling meant more to you than honesty, loyalty, or simple human decency." "That's not fair," she said, her voice cracking. "Fair?" I let out a bitter laugh. "You want to talk about fair? What's fair about discovering that the person you trusted most has been betraying you for 2 months? What's fair about being humiliated in front of your girlfriend's entire office? I never wanted you to find out like that. Then how exactly did you plan for me to find out? Or were you just going to keep dragging me along until you decided Dylan was the better choice?" She stayed silent, and that silence told me everything I needed to know. "Was he worth it?" I asked softly. "Was whatever you have with Dylan worth throwing away 2 years? Worth all the lies?" She looked at me through red, swollen eyes. "I don't know." And somehow that was the most honest answer she'd given me all night. "I need you to leave," I said, exhausted. "Come get your things when I'm not here. I'll leave a box outside tomorrow. Don't call me. Don't text me. We're done." "Please don't do this," she begged, getting to her feet. "We can fix this. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. I'll end things with Dylan right now. I'll do anything." "You'll do anything except take responsibility. You'll do anything except admit that this is what you wanted, that you made this choice. I made a mistake, she insisted. Forgetting to buy milk is a mistake. Showing up late to dinner is a mistake. An affair isn't a mistake, it's a decision. You chose him. You chose to lie. You chose to hurt me. At least have the courage to own it. Please, she whispered. I love you. No, you don't. If you loved me, none of this would have happened. If you loved me, you would have ended things with me before starting something with him. If you loved me, you never would have dragged me to that party and humiliated me in front of everyone you work with. I never wanted to humiliate you. Maybe not, but you did. And now I want you gone. Right now, Vanessa. She stood there for a long moment, mascara running down her cheeks, her hands shaking. Then finally, she walked toward the door. With her hand on the handle, she stopped. I really am sorry, she said quietly without turning around. I know, I answered. But sorry doesn't fix any of this. Sorry doesn't erase 2 months of lies. Sorry doesn't make me forget seeing you with him. Then she left, and the door clicked shut behind her. I stood alone in the middle of my living room, listening as her footsteps disappeared down the hallway, and all I felt was exhaustion. The anger was gone. Even the pain had faded. I was just tired. I sat back down on the couch and quietly finished my beer. 3 weeks later, I blocked Vanessa everywhere. At first, she tried reaching me through mutual friends, sending long messages full of apologies that I never bothered reading. I made it clear to everyone that I had nothing left to say to her and no desire to hear any more excuses. Lauren and Brielle never contacted me again, which suited me just fine. That first week was the worst. Part of me kept expecting her to call, to show up, to somehow force some kind of closure. But she never did. I packed up everything she had left behind, clothes from weekends she'd spent at my place, toiletries, a few books, and put everything out on the porch. She picked it up while I was at work. She didn't leave a note. Last week, I unexpectedly ran into one of Vanessa's former roommates while I was at the grocery store. I was standing in the produce aisle, trying to remember whether I still needed onions, when she suddenly appeared beside me. Hey, she said, sounding a little uncomfortable. How have you been? I'm doing all right, I answered, which was mostly true. How about you? Good. Listen, I heard about what happened with Vanessa and Dylan. I'm really sorry. I nodded, unsure how to respond. For what it's worth, she added quietly, I never really liked Dylan. He always came across as too polished, like he was putting on an act all the time. They're together? I asked, despite already knowing the answer. She paused before replying. Yeah, they're all over social media. It's like they've been together forever. Honestly, the way they show it off is kind of disgusting. It's okay, I said. She made her decision. You deserved better, she said softly, briefly touching my arm. You always treated her well. Everyone knew that. After she walked away, I finished my shopping and headed home. Later that night, despite knowing I shouldn't, I checked one of Vanessa's Instagram posts. They were sitting at some rooftop bar, his arm wrapped around her waist, both smiling for the camera with that picture-perfect filter that somehow makes normal life seem dull. They looked happy. They looked like they belonged together. I cleared my browser history and ordered a pizza. Honestly, I'm doing okay. Better than I thought I would be. Some days are tougher than others, but I'm sleeping better now than I was during those last few months with her. No more wondering why she seemed distant or questioning where she really was. No more trying to interpret her moods or making excuses for things that never made sense. No more feeling like I had to fight for attention inside my own relationship. The truth is, part of me knew something was wrong long before that office event happened. I just refused to admit it. I didn't want to be the jealous boyfriend who couldn't trust his girlfriend. I didn't want my suspicions to be true, but seeing her with Dylan finally forced me to stop lying to myself. A coworker asked me last week if I planned on dating again anytime soon. I told him maybe after a few months. Right now, I'm focused on remembering what it's like to live without constantly feeling anxious, without wondering every day if I'm enough. And honestly, I'm okay with that. I don't wish happiness on Vanessa and Dylan, but I don't wish them misery either. I just wish I had listened to myself the first time my instincts told me something wasn't right. It would have saved me countless sleepless nights and one painfully awkward office party. But at least now I've learned what to watch for. I know what it looks like when someone mentally checks out of a relationship. I know what lies sound like. And I know I deserve more than someone who could hold another man's hand beneath a table while while I stood there hoping I was imagining things. I deserve someone who chooses me without hesitation, someone who doesn't hide their phone or invent excuses for coming home late, someone who would never dream of humiliating me in front of everyone at an office gathering. And eventually, I'll find that person. Or maybe I won't. Either way, I'll still be okay. What matters is that I'm done settling for people who make me feel like an option. Final update. 2 months later, last night I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. I almost deleted it without reading, but something made me open it. This is Dylan. I think we should talk. I stared at the message for a long time, trying to understand why Dylan would ever contact me. Then another message appeared. Vanessa doesn't know I'm texting you. I just thought you should know things aren't working between us. She talks about you all the time. I think she made a mistake. I read the message 3 times and felt absolutely nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sense of victory. Just a strange curiosity about what he thought I was supposed to do with that information. I replied with a single message. That's not my problem anymore. Don't contact me again. Then I blocked the number and went back to watching my show. The version of me from 3 months earlier would have obsessed over that message. He would have wondered whether Vanessa deserved another chance, whether she truly regretted everything. He would have allowed hope to slowly creep back in like poison. But I'm not that person anymore. I learned something important from all of this. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. Don't make excuses. Don't justify it. Don't sit around hoping they'll change. Vanessa showed me exactly who she was in that restaurant booth. She showed me that her wants mattered more than my dignity. She showed me that she could look me straight in the eyes and lie without hesitation for months. And I believed her. So no, I don't care that things didn't work out between her and Dylan. I don't care whether she regrets her decision. I don't care if she constantly talks about me or finally realizes what she lost. Because I know exactly what I gained. I gained self-respect. I gained peace of mind. And I gained the certainty that I will never again waste my time on someone who sees me as nothing more than a backup plan. And that means far more to me than any apology she could ever offer.